and La is for the beginning of La ilaha illallah. Ma is for the messenger Muhammadur Rasulullah. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أجمعين. My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. My name is Omran Zrikat and I welcome all of you to these series of lessons that will address the ways of teaching Nuraniyah Rule or Al-Qaeda Nuraniyah to learners, whether they are children or even adults, Arabs or non-Arabs. I am a certified Nuraniyah Rule teacher by Al Furqan Center in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. After being engaged in teaching the Nuraniyah Rule for almost 10 years now, I would like to share with you some of my experience in this field. I have seen many channels that teach Al-Qaeda Nuraniyah, which is something very good, and may Allah reward those who are doing this effort. Some nice channel with good efforts is the Imam Riza channel. However, there is no single channel that addresses those who would like to teach the Nuraniyah Rule, be it teachers of Quran, at school, in the mosque or halaqas, or at home by parents, father or mother who would like to teach their children how to read the Quran, and they are using this book of Al-Qaeda Nuraniyah. So anybody who is interested in teaching this book, he or she must be aware of certain challenges that they are going to face while teaching the lessons of Al-Qaeda Nuraniyah. So this is a difficult task at times, actually, and you might learn it, but unless you get some training to teach it to others, as I said, it will be a very difficult task. So I'm here today to help you learn how to teach the Nuraniyah Rule. For every lesson has certain challenges that if you as a teacher get familiar with and get familiar with the challenges that you are going to face and how to overcome those challenges, then your task gets easier and all the objectives behind each and every lesson will be inshallah achieved. I will follow a certain course as I am leading you through the 17 lessons of this book. I will always show a video of how I'm teaching my own son Fadi, and we will together see as he is progressing in learning how to read the letters, words, and finally the sentences. I will always comment on those classes with Fadi, pointing out the challenges and the ways of overcoming those challenges. May Allah help us all to serve His noble book, the Holy Quran. Ameen. So let's get started and say Bismillah. So this is the book of the Al-Qaeda Nuraniyah, as you are familiar with, and these are the lessons, 17 lessons of Al-Qaeda Nuraniyah. So what am I going to do first is that we will start with lesson 1 here, and it's titled Huruf al-Hija al-Mufradah. So I will play the video now and we will try to comment where is necessary. So here is the first video, and Fadi is going to, as I said, I'm working on these lessons with Fadi. Fadi just now, he only learned the letters. He just learned the alphabetical letters, nothing else. He can't read. So I taught him the letters. It took some time. I taught him the correct pronunciation of the Arabic letters. So now he is ready. So this is now an answer to the question when a child is ready to start the Qaeda Nuraniyah. The child is ready once he has learned the alphabetic letters. He knows them, he recognizes them. So once he's able to read them from his memory and recognize each and every letter, this is the time now he is ready to start the classes of Al-Qaeda and Nuraniyah. So Fadi is almost now 4 years, mashallah. He just learned the Arabic letters. He's ready now to get into Al-Qaida Nuraniyah book. So let's see. الرحيم. اليوم نبدأ دروس القاعدة النورانية مع الطالب الشاطر فادي عمران زريقات. يلا تفضل يا حبيبي. هذا الدرس الأول. يلا تفضل. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يلا قول.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
So the first thing we must get the child used to is to point to the words or letters that he is reading from the very beginning. So he might not be able to recognize the words like here, but you as a teacher point to him and read like here, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and ask the child to do the same. Ask him to point to the words with his index finger like this, though he doesn't know what Bismillah and what Allah and Rahman Rahim and word by word, but he will be like imitating you, doing the same as you are doing as his teacher by pointing to the words. This is very important. Okay. أحسنت. الدرس الأول.
الدرس الأول.
حروف الهجاء المفردة.
حروف الهجاء المفردة.
A child must read the title of each and every lesson. This is a must. At the beginning of each and every class or lesson, he must do the same by reading and pointing to the title of each lesson or that lesson that he has reached. أحسنت. يلا تفضل اقرأ الحروف.
ألف باء تاء ثاء جيم.
So from the very beginning, as I said, he knows the letters. Fadi knows the letters. He recognized the letters. So he must point as he is reading. That is very important. Sometimes you find a child reading without pointing. No. Whatever he reads, he must point to that letter he is reading. And as a teacher, you are also pointing. You are also pointing while he is reading. This is very important. Now, we point also that the letters here, they are separated by square boxes like this. This is to say that they should be read separately. Some children or some students, they know the letters. They might start like this. Alif, ba, ta, tha, jim, ha, kha. They are excited. They want to show you that they can read. So you must tell them, no, this is not how we read this lesson. You should read by boxes. Each and every box contains a letter. So read, pause, read, pause, read, and so on and so forth until you get to the last letter. Like this, Alif, Ba, Ta, Tha, Jim, and so on and so forth.
Ha, ha.
Alright, that's very important. When Fadi reaches the Kha letter, he exerted more effort because we taught him that the Kha must have tafkhim, is a strong letter. That's why he didn't say Kha, for instance, Kha, but he rounded his lips and he hollowed his mouth to give this feature of tafkhim to the letter Kha. Kha, Kha. So, we taught him like this, and this brings me to the point that a teacher of Al-Qaida Nuraniyah, he must have some education about the characteristics of the letters in Arabic, because this is part of Tajweed. And as a teacher, you know that the Qaida Nuraniyah not only meant to teach reading the Holy Quran or reading Arabic in general, it's also meant to practice Tajweed and to prepare the child to start Tajweed. And Tajweed, the recitation of the Holy Quran. So unless the teacher himself has some knowledge about Tajweed, he can't then pass it to the student. And he can't also, if he doesn't have Tajweed or he doesn't have an education on tajweed, he will not be able to correct the pronunciation of some letters where the child or the student is unable to pronounce well. So this is a message to the teacher that you should get yourself educated on tajweed to the best of your ability, because that is the main objective behind, one of the main objectives behind teaching Al-Qaeda Nuraniyah. Actually, Al-Qaeda Nuraniyah is described as a practical tajweed of the Quran. A practical tajweed of the Quran, because there are so many practical rules a student is getting unconsciously without knowing throughout the lesson. Sometimes he gets a tajweed rule and we don't mention this to him. But later on, once he starts learning the Quran or reading the Quran or memorizing the Quran, he will find it very easy. He would find himself that he has learned many of those tajweed rules. Inshallah, by a time, every lesson from time to time, I will mention some of these hidden rules that you find within the Qaida Nuraniyah book. So again, a teacher must correct the student where necessary. And we will have an example as Fadi is reading. He will not being able to read the sad and sometimes the dha, and we will see how we correct it.
أحسنت.
دال زال واو زا
ارفع صوتك. زا.
زا.
Alright. Here Fadi said za, and in school I know that they are teaching him this za as zai. Not only this, we should have mentioned this as well. Like here, it said ba, ta, tha, jim, ha, kha. So at school, and they are teaching this as ba, ta, tha, jim, ha, kha with hamza at the end. Ba with hamza. Whereas for the sake of making things easy, while connecting the letters with each other later on in the next lessons, it's good to drop the hamza. I'm not saying that that is wrong. No, we are saying in Al-Qaida Nuraniyah, because we are going to connect the letters together, and we don't want this to become an obstacle and a difficult thing on the child. So we drop the hamza. We teach him the letters without the hamza at the end. We say ba, ta, tha, ha, kha, and here we don't say zai, we say za, and we should insist that the child learn this. Why? Because take this an example. For instance, once you get here, for instance, here in the second lesson, we come through this one. We say ba lam ba. Listen, ba lam ba. It's easier than saying ba lam ba. The hamza comes in between, makes it difficult. Whereas if you drop the hamza, it's an easier thing. Ba lam ba. Also, this becomes efficient when we get to the fourth lesson and we are teaching the harakat, the letters with the harakat. Take this ta letter, for instance. If I say ta hamzata, ta kasrati, look how difficult it is. Drop the hamza and see the difference. Ta fathata, ta kasrati, tati. Apparently, it's much more easier. Alright, so let's get back to the video.
أحسنت.
سين شين صاد
صاد.
صاد.
So Fadi says Saad, like any other kid. They would say Saad. This is how they learn it at school. Saad, or their parents taught them as Saad, which is okay, fine. But we say Saad like this. You give it a little mad, extension of or lengthening, prolonging. Saad with qalqala at the end. Id. id. Now, why we are doing this? We are preparing the child, especially with this letter sad. We are preparing the child because sad, as you know, we will come through it in lesson 3 here. This is the sad. There is a chapter in the Holy Quran, surah in the Holy Quran, titled as the letter sad. And the way to read this, these are the letters that start, that some of the surahs of the Quran starts with. And they have a special way of reciting. So when you get to this surah, or this lesson, lesson, here we will ask this child to read Sad, because as a teacher you know that this is mad and should be done with 6 harakat, like this one here, for instance, Alif Lam Mim Sad. So once the child learns how to say it here, it will be more easier when he gets here. That's why we are teaching him to say sad and then dad, just to be consistent with the sad here. All right.
أحسنت.
ضاد
ضاد.
ضاد
So this is your role as a teacher, to interfere and correct the pronunciation.
أحسنت.
ضا
طا.
طا
يلا.
All right. I will get to the next video.
يلا بعدين. طا. طا.
طا
Look what I did. I tapped twice with my index finger. Now I'm preparing Fadi that this means he has to pay attention to this one without having to say it. Later on here, when he reaches this letter, he will do a mistake. I would also tap twice. Make it your habit that to tap twice when there is a mistake or an error and you want the child or the student to correct himself.
يلا بعدين.
ضا
أحسنت.
عين
ارفع صوتك.
غاي
غين.
غاي
أحسنت.
فا
أحسنت.
قاف كاف لام ميم نون واو همزة
ها.
ها همزة يا
أحسنت.
All right. Fadi, alhamdulillah, he managed with the whole lesson. As I said, he knows the letter by heart. Not only that, he has pronounced most of them well, almost 100%. There are no mistakes with the characteristics of those letters. And I trust that this is, because the child might know the letters by heart, but he has some problems with pronunciation. Let me give you a quick examples about what kind of problems. Like, for instance, here with the kha, he will say kha, light one, whereas it should be kha, and then dal, ra, za. Here sad. So the sad, close in pronunciation to the sin, as you know, and the dad also has closeness to the dal. Should make this as a difference. Dha is close to the dal, so the teacher should be aware of these similarities and how to make the child make a distinction between those letters. Now, I'm not going to go through this because this is the teacher should do this and correct it to the child. Now, when we reach here, the ya is read twice. Ya and ya, right? Ya. Now, Uh, as a teacher, I trust you know that why do we have different ways of uh, writing the ya. Now, a child might not ask you this, uh, depending on the age and the level of his education, but I get some students who ask me actually why we are repeating the ya twice here. Now, the answer is because this is how we will find it in the Holy Quran later. Now, this ya comes at the end of the words in the Holy Quran. There are no dots underneath, no two dots underneath, whereas this ya, meaning that with two dots, it comes at the beginning and in the middle of the words as well, and it's an inverted one as well. So these are things that children learn them just like that, okay, without no questioning, and he will come through them later on in the lessons. Okay, so back to the video. So we covered reading all of this lesson. Now we need to make a revision, and the last thing in this episode, a teacher is required to read it together with a child. Now why together? Because you want to train the child to read in a certain tone. He must pick up that tone from you. So when you read with him, he will try to adjust. You will make him adjust his voice with your voice. Alright? So he will pick up the tone and the pace and the pitch as well. All these things will pick up from you when you read together with him. And as we, every time before each and every lesson, we do some revision, he will come to pick up this tone from you. I'll show you the last video in this episode.
نقرأ مع بعض يا فادي. نقرأ مع بعض يا فادي. 1 2 3.
Okay, ask him to place his index finger before yours, and together on 3 you start reading. He might not at the beginning be on the same pace of you, but as I said that you are training him, and every time you're asking him to match his voice with your voice with the same pace as well.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الدرس الأول حروف الهجاء المفردة. ألف باء تاء. يلا معي. ألف باء تاء ثاء جيم حاء خاء دال ذال راء زاء سين شين صاد ضاد. يلا مع بعض. طا طا ظا مع بعض. ظا عين. يلا عين غين فا. يلا مع بعض. قاف كاف كاف لام ميم نون واو ها همزة يا. أحسنت.
Okay, so as you have seen, I asked him many times to try to match his voice with my voice and keep the pace with me, and I read, this is how the way we read it, and we train the child as well to read in the same manner as well. At times the child gets slower or behind you. Never mind of this, he will get used to it, because there is a challenge of him how to recall the letters quickly and at the same time match his voice with your voice. So be patient. Inshallah, by time he will improve, and the child will become faster as well. But the reading together, that is a must. At each and every lesson, you must both read together. There is a times you give him the chance to read alone and to correct him, but at times you must always, any class, any lesson that is, you must read at some point. You both should read with each other and match your voice with or match his voice with your voice, so that they can pick up, as I said, the tone. So this is all regarding lesson 1 from the book of Al-Qaeda Nuraniyah. We have, just to summarize what we said quickly, we said that we should place our index finger here, and the child place his index finger in front of you, and you ask him to read and point while reading to each and everything that he is reading. And we also said it's a must that we always recall and read the title of that lesson, like الدرس الأول حروف الهجاء المفردة, and then we ask him to read the letters. A child before starting the Qaida Nurani is expected to know the letters. This is the sign that he is now able and prepared to go through Al-Qaida Nuraniyah. We also mentioned that each and every letter is separated by a box. We shouldn't join the box to each other. They must be read separately, and there is a pause in between, like this: alif, ba, ta, tha, and this is the base that we go on until we finish the whole lesson. We said also that if we have the child has some problems with the pronunciation of certain letters and the features and characteristics of those letters, the teacher is or has to interfere and correct where is necessary. So all in all, you cannot move to the second lesson if there are major problems here. If there are certain problems, like still he has a problem with recognizing some letters. For instance, he always forget the sad or the dha, or he confusing the ta with the dha, or ain with the ghain, whatever. Still, that means he still needs more time, more training, because if any letter, we have a problem with one of the letters and we didn't solve it from the very beginning, that means we will have this all the time, and that causes a bigger problem for the child later on. Be patient. The first two lessons are the major lessons in the book. They are the most important ones, as I say. So give them time, be patient, make sure that he can read from alif to ya without any problem at all, whether in recognizing the letters or with the way he pronounced them. You might compromise, as I say. Sometimes this is according to your discretion. Okay, you know your student well and better than anybody else. So, for instance, he has a problem with a dad. Still, he is not like it's close to the dal. He is not saying dad. He's saying da, something like this. Otherwise, all of the letters are perfect. But he has some problem with one of the letters. He knows that this is dad, but he has some problem with the pronunciation. Okay, you might leave it and start with the other lessons, but with more concentration. So on this letter, always bring it to his mind. Until he masters that letter and totally get rid of that problem that he's facing with that letter. So that's all about the first lesson of Al-Qaida Nuraniyah. Inshallah, there will be more lessons to come. We will cover all of the lessons of Al-Qaida Nuraniyah, and as I said, the challenges that we might face and the ways of overcoming those challenges. And our main objective is to get the child read the Holy Quran independently, perfectly, with a nice tajweed as well, because I said Qaida Nurani introduces so many of the tajweed rules to the learners. So that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward all of our efforts and help us serve His noble book, the Holy Quran. Thank you very much and see you next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi